Hi guys, on this week's show we are going to hot coat the deck of this board, and after that we are going to prep it for polish. So let's turn the board around. It's cured for quite a while now, so I don't have an issue with getting our hot coat damaged. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to clean the board off and give it a drip edge exactly the same, but I'm just going to go a little bit lower under the actual line that we've made in the previous video. So basically here we have our hot coat. We're going to want to hot coat just past that edge. So when I put my drip edge on here, I just want to place it about 1 millimeter or 2 millimeters underneath that line. So I'm going to place my drip edge, my tape just, in this case, above the line. So when I turn it around, obviously it's going to be below the line. So to make sure that my drip edge functions 100%, I just place these crunched up pieces of tape underneath here just to make sure that my lip stays in this position. So now we need to turn the board around, make sure we don't obstruct the drip edge with the stand. Everything is sitting right. I'm going to take the popsicle stick and just make sure that my tape line is firmly secured on the board. So all you need again is a brush, a brand new brush. So while you're applying your hot coat and you're spreading it evenly from side to side and from front to back, and just before you start finishing the board off, you start to see little imperfections. Don't worry about those, because what's happening is your resin starts to cure and you're still trying to paint away some imperfections that you're seeing in the light. Don't worry about them. So you need to set your mind on that this is it now. You've got resin everywhere where you want. You check your rails, you check everywhere that you are satisfied with the resin, and you stop. You still need to go through the sanding, the wet sandpapering, and the polishing. So those little imperfections are going to disappear from the next step. You will not be able to do that with the brush. So you do not get 100% gloss finish by applying hot coat. So the next step is to wait for about 2 hours. Then the resin starts to go off and we can remove the drip edge. We can remove the tape without having a big problem. The resin is soft enough that you can just pull off the tape. If you wait until it's cured, till 24 hours is over, it becomes rock hard and you kind of have to chisel away that tape. So you need to time it right, so that 2 hours is quite an important spot to remove the tape very cleanly. So we're going to let this cure and then come back to it in about 2 hours. So I've taken the board outside, I've taken the tape off in the meantime. It's about 2 hours now, well it's actually 3 hours later now, and I'm just going to let the resin go off a little bit in the sun. I'm going to leave it in the sun for about 2 minutes, bring it back into the shed, and then we're going to let it cure for the next 24 hours. Then we're going to get back to it and we're going to start concentrating on the fin box. So I'm going to be removing this lip line that the tape has created and just sand it down very, very slightly. The most important part is that you don't break through the hot coat. So I'm going to take my machine just on the tip and sand down that area bit by bit, ever so slightly. I'm hardly using any pressure. I'm actually lifting the machine, and as I feel it's touching it, and that's all I do. I don't push down on it. I just, as I feel it touches the board, that's all I'm doing. So I'm keeping the machine off the board. So that's the first step. I'm going to flip the board around and take off the little lip that the leash plug has. So this is a closed system so that no resin goes into the plug itself. So all you need to do once it's set is to sand off this little bump. Okay, now we're done with the dusty part. Now we're going to take the board outside so we can run water and make a big fat mess without actually destroying the studio. Explain what grids of sandpaper we're going to use to get rid of imperfections. Sand the board as flat as possible to prep it for polish. So now I'm going to begin with 1000 grit wet sandpaper. Flatten the board as good as possible. Then I'm going to look and see where my imperfections lie, because most of the times the 1000 grit actually takes away something that you would be trying to work on, but the 1000 grit actually does quite a good job of it. So it will only leave the really bad ones. So that's kind of my method here. I'm doing it the wrong way around, so that the ones that are not so bad, the 1000 grit sandpaper gets rid of those, and the really bad ones, they stay, and then I'll just go with a bit of a rougher sandpaper and work on those a little bit. While I have this bottle, I like to just pierce a hole in the bottom, then I can regulate my water flow. If I open it, a lot of water comes out. If I close the lid, it slows down. So I have a constant flow of water while I'm working with the sandpaper, with a wet sandpaper. It is a messy job, so change your kit so that your wife doesn't kill you later on. So let's begin. So I have a slight imperfection here that the 1000 wet sandpaper just didn't get rid of. I've changed to a 500. I'm just going to flatten that a little bit more. So now I'm swapping it to the 1000 grit. So I don't know if that was too visible on the camera, but there are a couple of imperfections where I just need to work a little bit rougher and then smoothen it out so that we don't need too much work on the polishing section. So that's it. The process took me around, well, just for this one side, around 2 hours. So I started off with a 1000 grit. I worked some areas with 500 grit and then went back and did the entire board again with a 1000 grit. So I'm going to just wash it off, dry it off, and show you what I'm left with, and that then can be polished up to a very nice gloss. So what you're left with is a smooth but matte finish. There are a couple of areas here where you think those are imperfections, but they are so slight to the touch that the polishing machine will just bring this back to a gloss and this will all disappear. There are maybe a couple of areas here that I might just work on a little bit longer, going back to the 500 and then back to the 1000, but other than that I'm quite happy with this result. So now I'm going to turn it around and do the other side, but I'm not going to film that for this video. Then next video we're going to be concentrating on getting this back to a gloss finish. So that's it from me this week. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to the channel, click that notification bell, and we'll see you guys next week. Bye.